Greetings, everybody. I hope you're good. Let us have a look at Nasdaq 100, and we will be starting off our analysis on the weekly chart. And yeah, without wasting any further time, guys, let's get straight into the actual analysis. And just to recap a bit, the last time we spoke about this particular index, we had mentioned that it had given us a very nice overextended W structure at this point, which has a neckline more or less at that point, right? And you guys by now know that whenever we have these structures, we want to see price breaking to the upside of that neckline and then coming back to the neckline to test it. And at this point over here, where we have that neckline is where we normally look for those potential buying opportunities, right? We look for potential buying opportunities. So I'm just gonna add a neckline to that structure, guys, and just bear with me while I do so. Let's see. So we could say that more or less our neckline of that W structure is at this point, and just also keep in mind that necklines are areas and not so much actual lines, right? And just to zoom in a bit, guys, another thing that I had also mentioned is that as much as we have this W structure over here, just keep in mind that whenever it comes to these W structures, a lot of traders and investors usually buy on the second leg of that W structure and they place their stop losses just below, right? So as much as I'm saying that at this point over here we should potentially be looking for buying opportunities, just bear in mind also that there's a lot of money sitting in and around this area over here in the form of stop losses, right? So it is also quite possible that the market may completely disregard this level over here and actually push further down to around these levels over here, right? Another reason that supports this theory is that we have this candlestick over here. If I can just mark it over here, it is a bearish candlestick with a relatively small body and quite a long lower wick, and it too at the bottom tells us that there's a lot of money sitting at that point, as the market needs to head down to collect it at some stage, right? So I'm just gonna mark this level over here, right? That's where the liquidity is. I'm just also gonna make this a different color, so just bear with me, guys. Let's see, I'll make it a whatever this color is, and there we go, there we go. So as I've said, guys, we have a lot of money sitting at the bottom. Number one, because we have this W structure, and we had a lot of traders and investors buying on the second leg of that W structure. And number two, we have this candlestick over here, which is carrying liquidity at that level over there, right? So um as I've said, guys, as much as I'm saying that at this point we should be looking for those buying opportunities, just bear in mind that this level over here may actually fail and we might potentially see price push further down to these levels over here. Just keep that in the back of your mind, right? So what I'm doing at this point, guys, is showing you some of the possible outcomes that may occur in as far as Nasdaq 100 is concerned, right? So what else do we see, guys, on the weekly chart that we should be paying attention to? Another thing that I see that is also very much interesting or important is the fact that we have this candlestick over here. It is a bullish candlestick with a small body and quite a long upper wick, and it tells us that where it ends at the top, we have a lot of liquidity sitting there. And as I've said, guys, multiple times, that liquidity actually represents money that needs to be triggered by the market, right? So what may possibly also happen is that, as I've said, guys, the market at this point may bounce off of this level, which is the neckline of this W structure, and also a very strong level of support, and we might see it push further up at least to this level over here to grab some of that liquidity that's sitting in and around that area, right? I just hope what I'm saying makes sense, guys, and it's not confusing. Anyway, let's proceed. What else do we see, guys, at this point? I don't see much really, but I just want to mention that myself personally, ideally, I would love to see price actually bounce off of this area, push further up to around this area over here, which is in line with this level, which is also a very strong level of resistance. And that is because, guys, if you think about it, the formation actually started at this point, right? And then it gave us this W structure, and ideally I want to see it end more or less at this point in line with this level over here, which is a very strong level of resistance, right? Another thing that I also just want to point out, guys, is that we have this level over here as well, or that candlestick. It is also a bullish candlestick with a small body and quite a long upper wick, which is over here. And it too tells us that at the top where we have that candlestick, there is indeed a lot of money sitting there, which needs to be triggered by the market, right? So it is also quite possible that we might see price from here actually shoot all the way to over here, and that is because this is a very strong level of resistance, and a level that is carrying a lot of money at this level over here, or at that point, right? Anyway, from here let's head down to the daily chart, guys. And here we are on the daily chart. Let's see. I'm just gonna adjust my neckline somewhat. There we go. There goes our neckline of this W structure that I spoke about, guys. Anyway, let's just zoom in a bit and have a look, guys. So what do we see, guys, on the daily chart of Nasdaq 100 that we should be particularly be paying attention to? Let's have a look. Let's see. In fact, before we continue, guys, I actually want to start off by adding my daily channel, and let's see, how would I add my daily channel in this regard. Let's have a look. I would actually add my daily channel in this manner. So this would be my daily channel, guys. And just remember that we just need to ensure that whatever drawings that we do add to our charts are as accurate as possible, just to ensure that at the end of the day, when we do ultimately execute, our execution is also very much accurate, right? So we could say that more or less this is our daily channel, and we can see that um, the market is actually in a downward trajectory as far as the daily chart goes. Can you guys see that? Right? Hope you guys can see that, right? Anyway, let's proceed, guys. Let's proceed. So what else do we see, guys, on the daily chart that we should be paying attention to? Remember, guys, on the weekly chart we spoke about this W structure over here, and we spoke about the fact that we have that neckline, which is also a very strong level of support. It's a very strong level of support because, guys, if you pay attention or if you look closely, you will see that we have multiple areas where price rejected that area, and what may possibly happen is that the market may again reject this area only to push further up, right? Can you guys see that? Right. Anyway, let's proceed, guys. So what else do we have, guys? So as much as, guys, we have this W structure over here, can you guys also see that we had another M structure over here, which also had a neckline at that point, right? So you saw price creating an M structure, right, and then also breaking to the bottom side of that M structure, and then coming back to that neckline to test it, right, which is over here. And at that point is where we should have looked for potential selling opportunities, guys. We should have looked for potential selling opportunities at this point, and our first take profit should have been this area over here, right? Why do I say this area? That is because it's a very strong level of support, and it's also the neckline of that huge W structure that I just spoke about, right? Anyway, let's proceed, guys. So I'm just gonna zoom in a bit, and let's have a closer look, right? In fact, before we proceed, I just want to add the neckline of that smaller M structure. Let's have a look. There we go, more or less, right? Can you guys see that? Right. We had this M structure, price broke to the bottom side of that M structure, went back to test it, and at this point is where we would have looked for potential selling opportunities, right? Anyway, let's proceed, guys. So what else do we see, guys, in regards to the daily chart? One thing that I can see at this point in time is that the market has been quite choppy. It hasn't been moving smoothly over the last couple of days, guys, as you can see over here, right? Nonetheless, I just hope that tomorrow, or when NFP opens or starts, the markets will be or rather will move in a more appealing way, if I may put it that way. Anyway, another thing that I see, guys, that is also very much interesting is that we have this candlestick over here, right? It is a bullish candlestick with a small body and quite a long upper wick, and it too tells us that there is a lot of liquidity that's sitting at that point over here, right? There we go. And guys, I just want to mention another thing that is also very much important, right? I just want to mention something that's very important. Remember, on the weekly chart we spoke about how we have that huge W structure, right? And then on the daily chart we also spoke about how we have this M structure. So we have two opposing structures, Number one, we have the W structure, and number two, we have that M structure, and they both have necklines at more or less the same areas, right? And I've said this before in my previous video, and what this means is that at this point, buying or selling is risky, and that is this point over here. Buying or selling at this point is risky, and that is because we have two opposing structures. And what this means, in other words, is that the market may go in either direction, right? The market may go in either direction, especially in as far as the bigger time frames are concerned. Nonetheless, what we'll do is head down to the smaller time frames to see if we can possibly get away with these opposing structures. Anyway, from here, what I'm gonna do, guys, is head down to the H4 chart, seeing that at this point I don't see much of interest. Although I just want to mention also that as much as, remember, we have that huge W structure over here as well as this M structure over here, we had also had the smaller W structure over here. Can you guys see that? And as I've said, when it comes to these W structures, a lot of traders and investors usually buy on the second leg of that W structure, and they place their stop losses just below. So similarly, we have a lot of money that's sitting at this point in the form of stop losses. And what may possibly happen is that, as much as I've said, guys, that at this point where we have the neckline of that huge W structure, we want to see price bouncing off this point and then pushing further up, right? What may also possibly happen is we might see a slight stop hunt to the bottom of this smaller W structure to trigger all of those stop losses that are sitting here, and then we might potentially see the market push further up, right? So that's another possibility that we need to keep in the back of our minds, right? Because as I've said, there's a lot of money sitting in and around this area, as a lot of traders and investors actually bought on the second leg of the W structure and they placed their stop losses just here, right? Anyway, let's proceed, guys. And yeah, from here I'm just gonna head down to the H4 chart. Let's have a look. On the H4 chart, I'm just gonna start off by fixing my channel, so just bear with me, guys, while I fix my channel. Let's see, H4 chart, there goes my channel, and this should be fine. There we go, that should be fine, right? The next thing that I'm going to do, guys, in regards to the H4 chart is to add my H4 channel as well. And let's have a look. How would I add my H4 channel, more or less? Let's see. I would do it in this manner. Just bear with me, guys. There we go, more or less. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. That should be fine. That should be fine, right? Let's see. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go, right? Just to recap, guys, remember on the bigger time frames, we spoke about how we have that bigger W structure at the bottom, right, which has a neckline at this point, right? And then on the daily chart, we spoke about how we have this huge M structure. Well, it's actually small on the daily time frame, and it has a neckline at this point, right? And we said that price broke to the bottom side of this neckline, went up to test it, and at this point is where we would have looked for potential selling opportunities, right? And our take profit, I said, would have been this level over here, and that is because this level is the neckline of that huge W structure, and it's also the, or rather, a very strong level of support, right? So that's what we've said, right? Anyway, let's proceed. Another thing that I also mentioned on the daily time frame, guys, is that we had this overextended W structure, and I said that a lot of traders and investors actually bought at this point, right, on the second leg of the W structure, and they placed their stop losses at this point. And I said that, guys, that as much as the anticipation is for the market to, at this level, bounce off of this very strong level of support, which is also the neckline of that big W structure, what may possibly also happen is that we might see price actually rejecting this area, only to move further down to grab all of those stop losses that are sitting at this point, and then possibly move further up, right? Another thing that I also want to stress, guys, is that on the weekly time frame, we spoke about, remember, that huge W structure, which is also here, right? Similarly, guys, we also had a lot of traders and investors buying at this point and also putting their stop losses just below. And just remember also that I spoke about that candlestick over here that is carrying all of that liquidity, right? So what I'm saying, in other words, is that, guys, as much as the anticipation is for the market at this point to push further up. What may possibly happen is we might see the market actually pushing further down to those levels at the bottom to grab that liquidity, as well as to grab those stop losses that I just spoke about, guys. I hope what I'm saying, guys, makes sense, because this is very important, right? Anyway, here we are on the H4 chart, and on the H4 chart, guys, we can see that we have another very interesting pattern, and that is this M structure over here, right, which also has a neckline at that point, right? And we can see that it's an overextended M structure, and that is because that first leg is much higher than that second leg, right? And guys, at this point we saw price breaking to the bottom side of this neckline, and then coming back to the neckline of that huge W structure that we have on the bigger time frames. And remember that this level over here is also a very strong level of support, and we might potentially see price head back to the neckline of this M structure over here, right? And at this point we might again see the market push further down. Why do I say so? That is because, guys, as I've said multiple times, whenever it comes to these M structures, we want to see price breaking to the bottom side of that neckline, coming back to the neckline to test it, and at that point is normally where we would look for potential selling opportunities, right? So as I've said, we might potentially see price, right, coming back to this neckline only to push further down, right? But myself personally, I would not be selling at this point, and that is because we have this level over here, which is a very strong level of support, right? So as you guys know, we have NFP coming up in a few hours time, and it's gonna be a very messy NFP in my humble opinion. And the reason why I say so is because we have a lot of opposing structures, right? As you can see, we have MNW formations all over the show. We have this M structure, we have this W structure, and if I can just zoom out, we have another one here with a neckline there, and on the weekly chart we also have this bigger W structure over here, right? So it's going to be a very messy NFP in my humble opinion, and I just hope that you guys thread carefully and just make sure that you practice good money management. And yeah, guys, that is it as far as my analysis goes. But as far as buying or selling opportunities at this point, I don't see any, but I do know that a lot of people are actually at this point buying, and the reason why they're buying, guys, is because price has reached a very strong level of support, and it's also the neckline of that huge W structure that we have on the weekly chart. So a lot of people are buying here and just placing their stop losses below. But just keep in mind that I mentioned how we have this W structure, and that a lot of traders and investors bought here and placed their stop losses here, and that we might potentially see the market actually push further down to stop hunt all of those stop losses that are sitting there. Similarly, remember, guys, if we can just zoom out a bit on the weekly chart as well, right? We also have this huge W structure, right? And we had a lot of traders and investors buying on the second leg of that W structure and placing their stop losses just below. To add to that, we had that candlestick over here, which is a bearish candlestick with a small body and quite a long lower wick, which is carrying liquidity at this point. So in conclusion, guys, there's a lot of money sitting in and around this area. There's a lot of money sitting in and around this area, and what may possibly happen, guys, is that, as I've said, as much as we or rather the anticipation is for price at this point to move further up, the market may continue to push all the way down to those lower points, right? So that is it, guys, and as far as my analysis goes. If you have any further questions, just let me know in the comment section, and just remember to like and subscribe, and peace out.